हेलो माय डियर फ्रेंड्स। जैसे कि आप लोग जानते हैं वी हैव स्टार्टेड विथ व्हाट यूनिट नंबर 4 दैट इज परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट। इन दैट ऑलरेडी वी हैव सीन few of the sections, that is section number 37, 40, 41 and 42. Today we are going to start with the next sections. Okay, before that let us revise what all we have seen in the last lecture. See section number 37, what it says. It tells about the obligation of the parties. Either they have to perform or offer to perform their promise. The promise need not be performed where performance is dispensed with or excused under this law, that is Indian Contract Act, or any other law. Then if there is a death of the promiser before performing his promise, then legal representative must perform the promise and get the consideration for it. Right, there are some exceptions, we will see it in the next slide. Right, next what we have seen section number 40, who can perform the promise. Promiser only if it is stated in the contract, or it involves the personal skills of the promiser, or if it is founded on the personal confidence. In these three cases, only promiser can perform the promise. Otherwise, he can appoint a competent person to perform the promise, that is known as agent of the promiser. In case of death of promiser, either the legal representative or even legal representative can appoint a agent, that is competent person to perform the contract. Right? This we have seen section 40. Then we have seen what section number 41, performance of promise by a third party. We have seen that who can perform the promise. Only three persons: the promiser himself, legal representative, or agent of the promiser and agent of the legal representative. Right? Then when a third person has performed the promise, in that case what happens? Where promisee accepts the performance by third party, he cannot afterwards enforce it against the promiser. We have seen one example also for this, right? Mr. A and Mr. B. B was supposed to pay rupees 10,000 to Mr. A. In that case, C is a friend of Mr. B who has paid 6,000 rupees to Mr. A. And Mr. A has accepted that 6,000 rupees. Now Mr. A can only claim the balance amount from Mr. B and not the entire amount, right? This example we have already seen in my last class. Next comes section number 42, that is joint promisers, right? Who have to perform the promise when there are two or more promisers, right? During their joint lives, when all the joint promisers are alive, then all of them have to perform the promise jointly. In case of death of any one joint promiser, his legal representative plus surviving promisers has to perform the promise. In case of after the death of all the survivors, that is last survivor, then legal representative of all the promisers jointly have to perform the promise. Right? This much we have seen in the last class. So let us start with the today's lecture. Today we have to cover how many sections? 5 sections. Section number 38, 39, 43, 44 and 45. Okay. So let us start with the section number 38. So let us start with the section number 38, that is effect of refusal to accept offer of performance. Offer of performance is given by whom? By the promiser to the promisee, right? Promiser has told that I am ready to perform my promise, but the promisee has refused to accept his performance. In that case, what are the effects? We have to see under section 38. See, where a promiser has made an offer of performance to the promisee and the offer has not been accepted, the promiser is not responsible for non-performance. What are its effects? Promiser will not be held responsible for non-performance, nor does he thereby lose his rights under the contract. Right? So, promiser will not be held responsible for non-performance and he has all the rights under the contract. Right? Where promiser has made an offer of performance, but promisee has not accepted his offer. Right? See, Every such offer must fulfill the following condition. Whatever offer of performance we are talking about, it has to satisfy some conditions. What are that conditions? It must be unconditional. There should not be any condition while performing the promise. It must be made at the proper time and place, and under such circumstances that the person to whom it is made may have a reasonable opportunity of ascertaining that the person by whom it is made is able, okay, and willing there and then to do the whole of the what he is bound by his promise to do. Say for example, say one second. Say for example, there are two parties, Mr. A and Mr. B. Mr. A has promised that he will deliver 100 dairy milk chocolates on 31st March 2020. On this date, A is ready to perform his promise, but B has refused to accept those chocolates, and it is a section 38 will be applicable. A is not held responsible for non-performance and he can claim the price for this 100 dairy milk chocolates, and this is given. And his offer of performance should be what? First condition is it is unconditional. There should not be any condition. And second condition is B should be in a position to see that he is able and willing to perform whole of the promise, right? It means what? If say for example on 31st March Mr. A is having only 50 chocolates with him and he has offered to give how many chocolates? 100 dairy milk chocolates. This is not a valid offer of performance because here Mr. A itself is not having 100 chocolates with him, right? Due to this COVID lockdown and all, Mr. A is not able to get the supply of the remaining 50 chocolates, and he is now saying that he is ready to deliver the all the 100 chocolates. In that case, it will not amount to valid offer of performance. Last condition is opportunity to inspect. Mr. B should be given an opportunity to inspect that whatever is the promise. He has promised how many chocolates? 100 chocolates. Which kind of chocolates? It is dairy milk chocolates, right? Mr. B should be given an opportunity to inspect the goods. Then it will amount to what? Valid offer of performance. Clear? See now. We will come back to our slide. Okay, see. It must be unconditional. It must be made at a proper time and place, and under such circumstances that person to whom it is made may have the reasonable opportunity to ascertain that the person by whom it is made is able and willing there and then to do the whole of what he is bound by his promise to do. Last condition, if the offer is an offer to deliver anything to the promisee, the promisee must have a reasonable opportunity of inspection, right? See, reasonable opportunity of seeing that the things offered is the thing which the promiser is bound by his promise to deliver, right? This is the same kind of goods or things which he has promised to deliver, that has to be seen. Then an offer to one of several joint promises has the same legal consequences as an offer to all of them. Say for example, there is a promiser, there are X, Y and Z who are promises, right? Now Mr. A informed Mr. X that he wants to perform his promise. So he has given a offer of performance to any one of the joint promises. It amounts to offer to all the promises, right? Offer to all the joint promises, right? It's amount to offer to all the joint promises. A need not call all three of them X, Y, and Z and tell that he wants to perform his promise. If we call any one of them, it is sufficient. Clear? This is given under section 38. Then see. Let us see an example. A contracts to deliver to B at his warehouse on the 1st March 1873 100 bales of cotton of a particular quality. In order to make an offer of performance with the effect stated in this section, A must bring the cotton to B's warehouse on the appointed day. Under such circumstances that B may have a reasonable opportunity of satisfying himself that the thing offered is a cotton of the quality contracted for and that of the 100 bales, right? Same quantity and same quality has to be there as on the decided date of the same quality that is given in this example, right? Next section is section number 39. What it says, effect of refusal of party to perform the promise. Here promiser himself is refusing to perform his promise, refuses to perform his promise, right? Where a party to a contract has refused to perform or see here disabled himself from performing his promise in its entirety. The promisee may put an end to the contract unless he has signified by words or conduct his acquaintance in its continuance. We will analyze this meaning one by one. When a party to a contract has refused to perform, the promiser has told that he will not perform the promise or disabled himself from performing. It means what? We have seen recently one example of Dairy Milk chocolates. Say for example, he had 100 chocolates with him, but purposely he sold 50 chocolates to some other party. Now he is left with how many chocolates? Only 50 chocolates, right? So he is purposely disabling himself from performing the contract, right? Performing the promise. So the promisee may put an end to the contract. Promisee has an option to what? Put an end to the contract, or unless he has signified by words or by conduct. What he has signified? His acquaintance to its continuance, right? He is ready to accept the contract even if he has done something wrong, even if the promiser has refused or disabled himself from performing. Still the promisee wants to continue the contract and he has signified it by his words or by his conduct, right? See, two rights accrue to the aggrieved party, that is the promisee has two rights. What are that? To terminate the contract or to indicate either by words or by conduct that he is interested in its continuance. In either case, promisee would be able to claim damages. In both these cases, promisee will be allowed to claim damages, right? That he suffers as a result of the breach. Clear? Understood? Let us see an example. A singer enters into a contract with B, the manager of a theatre, to sing at his theatre 2 nights in every week during the next 2 months. And B engages to pay her rupees 100 for each night's performance. Right? Weekly, 2 days, like that 2 months. On the sixth night, A willfully absent herself from the theatre. B is at a liberty to put an end to the contract. Here A willfully absents from performing a performance promise, right? So B has the option to put an end to the contract. This is example number 1. See the same example in the example number 2. A singer enters into a contract with B, the manager of a theater, to sing at his theater 2 nights in every week during the next 2 months, and B engages to pay her at a rate of rupees 100 for each night. On the 6th night, A willfully absents herself. With the assent of B, see here, with the assent of B, A sings on the 7th night, next day. B has signified his acquaintance in the continuance of the contract and cannot now put an end to it, but is entitled for compensation for the damage sustained by him through A's failure to sing on the 6th night. Here, the promisee is allowing him to perform on 7th day, right? So, on 6th day, where the promiser failed to perform his promise, the promisee can claim the damages for that day. Clear? Understood both the examples? Fine. Let us move ahead. Now, let us see section number 42, which we have already seen, right? When two or more persons have made a joint promise, that is nothing but joint promisers, right? Who has to perform the promise? All the joint promisers, when they are alive, are legal representative of the deceased promiser plus surviving promisers if there is a death of any promiser. On the death of all the joint promisers, legal representative of all the joint promisers jointly will be liable for the performance of promise. C. Then unless a contrary intention appears from the contract, all such persons during their lives and after the death of any one of them, his legal representative jointly with the survivor, and after the death of the last survivor, the representatives of all the jointly must fulfill the promise. This we have seen in the last class itself. And see here, if these three are the promisers who has promised to A, B, C are the three promisers. They have borrowed rupees 30,000 from X and jointly promised to repay. Now, either this A, B and C jointly has to repay that amount. If A died, legal representative of A plus B and C. If all the three has died, A, B and C, then legal representative of A, B and C will be liable to perform the promise. C. Section number 43. Any one of the joint promisers may be compelled to perform, right? See, in the previous case, Mr. A, B and C has promised what? They will pay rupees how much? 30,000 to Mr. X. Now, Mr. X can compel any one of them, either A, B, C, or he can go for A and B, B and C, C and A. Likewise, anyone can be asked to perform the promise. When two or more persons make a joint promise, the promisee, that is Mr. X, may, in the absence of the express agreement to the contrary, compel any one or more, that is A or A and B and C, either A, either B or C, or either A and B he can ask, or B and C he can ask, or he can ask C and A to perform the contract of such joint promisers to perform the whole of the promise. Each promiser may compel contribution. This is important. See, each of two or more joint promisers may compel every other joint promisers to contribute equally with himself to the performance of the promise unless the contrary intention appears from the contract. If one of the joint promisers is made to perform the whole contract, he can call for the contribution from the others, right? Say for example, in this 30,000, Mr. A's liability is how much? 10,000. B's liability is 10,000. C's liability is 10,000. X has gone to A's house and A only has paid how much? Entire 30,000 to Mr. X. Now Mr. B has to pay 10,000 to Mr. A and C has to pay 10,000 to Mr. A. This is nothing but contribution from Mr. B and Mr. C. Clear? See now. If any one of two or more joint promisors make default in such contribution, the remaining joint promisors must bear the loss arising from such default in equal share. This is important. Okay. In the last example itself, A, B, C, right? 10,000, 10,000 and 10,000 was the liability. A has paid the entire 30,000. Mr. C told that he has become insolvent and he cannot pay anything. His 10,000 rupees loss, it has to be borne equally by Mr. A and B. So Mr. A's liability has increased by rupees 5,000 and B's liability has increased by rupees 5,000. So now Mr. B has to give Mr. A rupees totally 15,000, right? Now Mr. A is contributing 15,000 and B is contributing 15,000. Entire 30,000 is paid. Let us see some of the examples. A, B and C jointly promise to pay D 3,000 rupees. D may compel either A or B or C to pay him rupees 3,000, right? He can ask any one of them to perform the promise. Second example, A, B and C jointly promise to pay D the sum of rupees 3,000 rupees. C is compelled to pay the whole. Who is paying? C is paying the entire amount. What is their liability? A has to pay 1,000, B has to pay 1,000, C has to pay 1,000, but C has paid how much? 3,000. A is insolvent, but assets are insufficient to pay one half of the assets are sufficient to pay one half of his debt. So A is paying how much? Only 500. So 500 is the loss, right? This 500 loss has to be borne equally by Mr. B and C. So 250 here and 250 here. So now Mr. B has to pay how much? 1,250 rupees to Mr. C and A will pay rupees 500 and C is contributing how much totally? 12,500. C is entitled to receive 500 rupees from A's estate and 1,250 rupees from B, right? After adding the equal share of the loss of Mr. A's default, right? See one more example. A, B and C are under a joint promise to pay D rupees 3,000. C is unable to pay anything, right? In this example, there are three parties, A, B and C. All of them have to pay 1,000, 1,000 and 1,000. C has paid the entire 3,000. A has become insolvent and he has paid rupees 0. So what is the loss amount? 1,000 rupees is the loss. It has to be borne equally. So here it goes to 500. So now Mr. B has to pay 1,500 to Mr. C, right? C. Now A is entitled to receive 1,500 rupees from B, right? One more example. A, B and C are under the joint promise to pay D rupees 3,000. A and B being only sureties for C. C fails to pay. A and B are compelled to pay the whole sum. They are entitled to recover it from C, right? A and B are the only sureties. They have not promised that they will pay. So now C has to pay the entire amount to A and B, whatever is their contribution, right? So let us move ahead and see the section number 44. Effect of release of one joint promisor. Here a joint promisor is being released by the promisee. See, where two or more persons have made a joint promise, a release of one of such joint promisors by the promisee, who is releasing by the promisee, does not discharge the other joint promisors or joint promisors neither does it free, okay, the joint promisors so released from responsibility to other joint promisor or promisors, right? See here, in this case there are three persons A, B and C, and they have borrowed rupees 30,000 from X and jointly promised to pay it back. X discharged C from the repayment, right? In that case, C is not discharged from this liability to pay amount to Mr. A and B. Still, he has to contribute his share of payment at the time of repayment of loan amount to Mr. X, right? See, last section for the day, devolution of joint rights. When a person has made a promise to two or more persons jointly, then unless a contrary intention appears from the contract, right to claim the performance rests as between him and them, with them during their joint lives, and after the death of any of them, with the representative of such deceased person, jointly with the survivor or survivors, and after the death of the last survivor, with the representative of the all joint promisors, right? See here what it is saying, the right to claim performance, right? Say for example, Mr. A is the person who has promised to repay 30,000 to three people X, Y and Z. They are known as what? Joint promises, right? In this case, they all the three can ask for the performance of the promise from Mr. A, right? If Mr. X dies, his legal representative plus surviving joint promisors. If all the joint promisors has died, then legal representative of all joint promises jointly can compel Mr. A to perform his promise, right? This is ulta case. Clear? Understood? See an example. A, in consideration of rupees 5,000 lent to him by B and C, promises B and C jointly to repay them that sum with interest on a day specified. B dies. The right to claim performance rests with the B's representative jointly with C during C's life and after the death of C with the representative of B and C jointly. Right? Clear? So, with this, we are stopping today's lecture. We will continue with the remaining sections in the next class. Okay? If you like the explanation, you can hit the like button. You can share this lecture with your friends also so that they can also learn something, right? So keep learning, keep growing. If you have any doubts, you can contact me anytime. Thank you.